Good morning. Good morning. So, I'm going to begin this series, and it is all about deconstruction, addressing habits, patterns, behaviors, beliefs, the things that you hold true about you, the world, your role in the world, how you fit in, what you can and cannot do, why you can and cannot have things. Urging you to question, does it serve you? Who benefits from the story? And coming from the perspective of human design and how human design helps you work through the deconstruction process. So, hey Nita, good morning, Gazi. And so that's really the framework for this, right? The conversation, would love, for this to be interactive, but habits, patterns, behaviors, beliefs, things that you believe to be true about you. And we come by these beliefs, and it's not necessarily insidious, right? We come by these beliefs because of where we were born, who our parents were, what that community believed, where we went to school. It's just a collective conditioning to believe specific things to be true. And so now I'm in the place of helping you deconstruct the stories and live in the truth of who you are, and not hold on to stories that don't serve you. And the biggest question to ask is, if the story doesn't serve me, then who is it serving, right? I mean, that's the big piece right there. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is going to be about habits and behaviors that we've acquired that are counterintuitive depending on what our energy type is, right? So in human design, there are 4 major types of energy. There are generators, which are 70% of the population, and so they could be a generator or a manifesting generator. There are projectors, who are the next 20% of the population. So there you have 90% of the population right there. Then you have manifestors making up another 9% of the population. Then you have reflectors, who make up another 1% of the population. And each one of these types, by energy, has a certain pattern by which they interact with life. And we haven't been honoring it for a really long time. And what happens is then we develop habits, practices, and behaviors that are counterintuitive to how our energy dictates we should be meeting life, right? And we run into a lot of resistance in the things we try to do because we are not in that energetic alignment. So let's talk about deconstruction by type. If you are anything but a manifester, anything outside of that 9% of the population, you are not here to initiate anything. And so we live in this world of, let's use Nike as an example, go do it. You want to do something, you just go do it. You get it done. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You get out there. You go, go, go. Do, make it happen. But the fact of the energetic matter is, the only people designed to go out and make something happen are manifestors. And so the rest of the population, the other, let's say 90% for the most part, are engaging in life in a fashion that doesn't honor the integrity of their energy. So when you look at someone who is a reflector, so let's talk about that teeny tiny 1% of the population. These people are really gifts to us, and they're people who reflect back to us whether or not our environment, our surroundings, our communities are healthy and happy and doing well, because reflectors can only mirror back to you the truth of their situation. And they are the only energy type that's connected to the moon. So these are people, when it comes to making bigger decisions, where to live, what relationships to engage in, whether or not a job is the right job for them, these are people who specifically need to wait a lunar cycle before making these larger decisions. Then the next group of people we're going to come to, once we get done talking about kind of the reflectors and their way of meeting life, right, are the projectors. And projectors are a non-energy type. Projectors are really here to be guides of energy and to be wise about workforce energy, but they are really honestly not here to be people who are working a 9 to 5 and who are grinding it out and who are expending a lot of physical energy into something, because that's not how they're designed to meet life. And then you get to the other 70% of the population, generators. So whether you're a manifesting generator or a generator, you fall into this group of people who are life force energy. But we're designed to meet life in response to what it brings to us. So again, you're not dealing with people who are gonna go and do it and get things started. You're dealing with people who are really here to meet life and go, or that's for me, then engage their energy and move forward into it. And it's a really straightforward strategy once you get into how you're supposed to be meeting life. But over our lifetime, we are taught so many things that are counterintuitive to meeting life the way that most of us were designed, especially young women. Lately, we are all, we're going to go do it. We're going to be pushing and creating and driving and all of these things to get life started, because we believe that that's the process by which it's supposed to work. And maybe, maybe it's not. And for generators, responding is a sacral thing, and it's a sound, and it's a feeling, and it's an or it's an And we grew up with parents who said, you say yes, ma'am, you say no, sir. Don't, use your words. But sacral beings operate very powerfully in sounds and not in words. So again, we're having this conversation about the patterns of behavior that we've picked up, not because people were setting out to undermine us, but because we didn't know better. And so when we know better, we can do better, right? And this part of us knowing better is us really understanding that the way that we meet life and the way that we engage with life is really informed by our type. And our type describes to us our aura. And your aura tells you how you are energetically designed to meet life. And it's not about, you can do something or you can't do something. It's about the way you approach it and how much resistance you really want to deal with in going down the path that is right for you. So that's really the piece of this, when you start talking about deconstruction and deconstructing your stories and deconstructing by type, is talking about addressing, hey Tanya, it's talking about addressing how you meet life and enter into decisions. It's about the scarf is coming off, so that's fine. It's really about decision making and making decisions in a way that they are really in alignment for us, meeting life in a way that reduces our resistance, moving toward the things we want. It's not a matter of, oh, if you're this type, you can or can't have this. You can or can't do this. It's about, what's the best way for me to meet this, to reduce resistance, and find my ease and flow in the process of progress. When we have perspectives on people who don't do well working jobs, they don't do well with physical labor, they don't do well with long hours. They really could be people that are not in their energetic alignment for that to work for them. And we need to find ways to nurture that, to help them meet life in the right way, and to help them find ways to engage, support, and contribute that honor them, that benefit them appropriately, right? And I'm trying to think, I had a thought that I just kind of lost, and now it's making me kind of crazy. It really is. I had it and it's gone. So it's gone. So when we're talking about, someone like that, someone who is a projector, someone who really isn't designed to be working and engaged in that kind of heavy push, go, go, go energy, right? Then the fact of the matter is, when they do that, and they have all of those open centers in their chart, because they do, they are taking in and they are enhancing, they're taking in and amplifying the energy of the people around them. And so they can go and they can do while they're in that energy, and then they go home and they're people who collapse because they're so tired at the end of the day. And they're people who end up with health issues like adrenal fatigue and other things, because they're not honoring the way that their energy is supposed to work. They are literally pushing themselves into illness from being far too physically engaged. I'm going to see if I can find my live so I can pay attention to whether or not there are questions, right? And so that's the whole thing. This is a conversation we need to be able to have with people. This is a conversation we need to, hey, Miss Leisha Webb, we need to be able to help people work through. If you are not honoring what you energetically need, you're going to get tired, you're going to get sick, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be bitter. And so then how do we begin to help you? Help yourself honor that, engage in life in a more appropriate way, heal the way that you engage in life, and become a much happier person, right? So, I mean, and there are layers to this, and I'm really trying to stay focused and do this in a series that really makes sense. But it goes back to, again, the stories we tell ourselves. I can remember being a young girl and having a cousin who was having difficulty finding work in the field that she had gone to school for. and she's older than I am. And there being a point in time, you know, where my grandmother, who grew up in the South, who was a laundress, who worked every day of her life, right? Which was appropriate for her energy type, by the way. Looking at my cousin and saying, well, you need to get the job you can have until you can have the job that you want. I don't care if you have to go and get a job at Burger King. I don't care. But these are the stories that we tell ourselves, right? You have to do this. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't serve you and if it doesn't feel good and if it's not in alignment, because if you don't do this, then this, then this. Who is this story serving? Right? Begin to question who those stories are serving. Another story, right? Let's talk about the story of being a Black woman working in America, and there is this wage gap. I'm not going to argue about the facts of the wage gap or whether we believe we have to show up and do 10 times the job that someone else does in order to get equal recognition. What I'm telling you to do is ask yourself why you are continuing to allow yourself to believe that that story is a story that has to be true for you, and what you can begin to do to deconstruct that. Who is that story serving? Because it is certainly not serving us to believe that. It feeds into lack mentality. It feeds into resentment. It feeds into us driving our bodies and our minds in a way that don't serve us, because we feel like we have to push harder, push more, and do more to be treated equally. So what I'm asking you to do is consider, in beginning to deconstruct your stories, what do you believe to be true about how you have to operate in the world that doesn't feel good, that makes you tired, and that doesn't serve you? Who is it serving? Why is it serving them and not you? Is it getting you to continue to play small? Is it getting you to continue to be in a role that builds resentment and tension in communities? What is it doing for someone else while it's not serving you? And so this is sort of the basis of what I'm going to be discussing this week and talking about deconstructing, right? So that is just the deconstructing by type. One of the other hallmarks, let's see, of by type, a behavior. Projectors need recognition and an invitation to participate in life. And they are people who, when they aren't recognized and invited to participate, meet a lot of resistance to their input. I am watching currently, in the work that I'm doing at school, a young woman that I know to be a projector, who is constantly trying to force herself into situations and interactions with people because she's always feeling left out. She's always feeling not included. And she's pushing this energy so much that she can't make a breakthrough, right? Because she's just having such a hard time reining it back in. It's become such a habit, such a pattern of behavior. These are folks who, especially when they're young and not receiving their recognition and not recognizing their invitations, are blurting out answers in class or inserting themselves in situations, or find themselves really cast out because they're so energetically out of alignment that no one else wants to be around them. And so we are working to help her develop better patterns and habits of behavior, help her recognize when the invitation is really there, include herself when she's being asked to be included. And the hardest part for right now, being silent and not trying to force inclusion when she hasn't been recognized and invited. Like letting this simmer down in a way that then allows the energy alignment to happen for her. So this is just part one of deconstructing the stories, and it's really about deconstructing by your energy type and by how you meet life. So if you have your chart, you know your type and your aura, and you want to ask some questions, I am certainly happy to do so. And you will see me, I will be here every day this week at some point during the day, talking about deconstruction from another perspective within the realm of how we operate, the stories we create, how our lives have helped feed these stories into us, and where we can begin to do work, right, that will help us deconstruct what is not serving us in order to live the truth of who we are, be present in a way that honors us, and then allow us to really be more fulfilled in life. And let's talk about, what fulfillment means. Because fulfillment for every person is something different. Fulfillment for one person might be, the Elmer Fudd. I am Elmo J. Fudd. I own a mansion and a yacht. I am a millionaire. Like that's someone's story. But there's another person's story that says, I have a lovely cottage in a meadow away from a lot of people, and I grow my own food, and right? Stories about what success looks like for each one of us are extremely individual. So again, I don't want you to take this information and feel like, oh, because I'm this, because I'm a projector, and my energy isn't designed to go, 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 do, I can't have. It's not how it works. And if anyone tells you that's how it works, tell them they're a liar and then come see me. Right? It's learning how to leverage and engage who you are in a way that doesn't fatigue you, that doesn't stress you. We are here to live life and have an abundant life. And this is just a tool to help you sort of unpack how you've been engaging in life in a way that doesn't necessarily help you get to where you want to be with the most ease and flow. And so I'll say this, there's also, a large segment of people who are going through spiritual awakening. And I am all about the spiritual awakening, right? I'm all about understanding our connection to divine creation and our connection to God and our connection to one another. I think it's important that we understand that all of that is really coming up for people right now. But in the midst of all of that, we are still here to live a physical existence with one another in a way that is honoring us. We are here to be abundant, to thrive, to have sufficiently everything that we need. So that's a big piece of it. Oh my goodness, Sophia. So I am so excited by your question. Number 1, you're a generator. Number 2, you're coming off of the roof. Number 3, you're a 6'2", and I'm a 6'2", who is in the process of coming off of the roof. And so so what I'm talking about right now, right this minute, and I am definitely going to digress and get a little bit more into what you have said or asked, right? What I'm talking about right now just pertains to the generator piece, right? How are you designed to engage with and meet life? And that is in response. And so you have a business. And let me be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in business, having a business, spiritually based businesses. I think it's fantastic. It's not for everyone. And so if it's not for you, learning how to harness the truth of who you are in the role that you're serving in is also perfectly wonderful, right? It's not about, oh, I know all of this wonderful stuff about me, now I have to go be a spiritual entrepreneur. So I want to differentiate those things, right? That understanding you and how you interact in life doesn't mean your role has to necessarily change. Just how you're interacting changes. So, Sophia, Anita has also spoken up. Anita and I spend a lot of quality time together. She is ahead of me in the off the roof process. So, let's talk about number one, always honoring the generator. Not sure if you're emotional or not, but always honoring that sacral because that is how you meet life. And so what does that mean in context of business when I talk about not initiating? What it means is you're allowed to have all of the ideas you want. And I haven't seen your whole chart, so these are going to be very general perspectives. I have an open head and an open ajna, and so I'm always getting inspiration, right? And so then what I'll do is when something is really good, I have a notebook and I keep my jotted ideas down. Then what happens is outside of me, unsolicited by me, my ideas will come back to me. And then because it has to come back to you from outside of you, and then your sacral engages and you get your So as an example, I really wanted to talk about this deconstructing. And so I'm a manifesting generator. The first thing I need to do is inform, right? I put a post up, it's been maybe a week, about wanting to talk about deconstructing. And I got a little response. But that was to my post. But I was honoring my manifestor by informing. Well, then I found myself part of a conversation with a group of women who are completely separated from what I do here. And the deconstruction and the stories we tell ourselves came back in that conversation. I got my sacral and I knew it was right for me to do this series of conversations talking about deconstruction, talking about the stories we tell ourselves that don't serve us, right? So what you're looking for as a generator in general is that you're going to have these ideas, you're going to have things you want to do. When they present themselves back to you outside of you initiating them and you get that and that sacral response, then you go with them, right? And so I would say if you are an intuitive coach, healer, teacher, that is definitely in line kind of with that 6-2 energy, right? Would love to so now I'm getting into specific things, which I'm going to try to not do a lot of, to know where you are in the process of coming off of the roof. And so for those of you who are on here, if you or someone you love has a 6 line, it has a very specific way that energy evolves over time. Best way to describe it. And so when we talk about coming off of, no, you're not waiting for the people in your community to ask for services necessarily. That's not exactly what I mean. What I mean is you may have an idea for a new offer or a new thing, right? And that thing is going to somehow present itself to you, right? And you're going to go, yep, I knew that was the right offer. If you are currently working, what you're going to continue to do is just talk about what you're doing, talk about the results you're getting, and let people come to you that give you the opportunity to go, let's do this work, right? You're probably already really in alignment. You're not waiting for people to ask for service. But the best strategy is to just share what you're doing and let them come to you for your sacral to then be able to engage with them. I really hope that makes sense for you. Because this is not about limiting you at all. It's about you finding the right way to engage. And so as a generator, the most powerful tool that we can use that should be used with us, and let's consider 70% of the population are also generators, are yes, no questions. Yes and no questions, affirmative and negative questions, are what engages sacral energy. And so that's kind of that piece of it. And if I am not clear, let's have a separate kind of conversation over there about how that plays out, right? Okay, so coming off the roof, I want to explain this because this is very, very important. Coming off the roof isn't at exactly 50. Okay? Coming off the roof is a process. And what you need to calculate is your Chiron return. And then you go 3.5 years before that and 3.5 years after that. And that is the window in which your coming off the roof will happen. Thank you, Anita. Thank you. And I hope that that makes sense. So we're going to go with the belief, because we're pretty correct, that you are in the coming off of the roof process. But it's not as if, oh, when I turn 50, I'm off the roof. Right? Some people's Chiron return date is earlier. Some people's Chiron return date is later. Well, Tanya, there's a trick to that question. So there's a very specific energetic process that happens for people with 6 lines. So that is a 6-2, that is a 6-3, that is a 4-6, that is a, right? Anyone who has 6-line energy has a very specific way that that energy mutates over time. And then the other piece for me to answer for you in that, as we talk about deconstructing stories, Tanya, is we operate in this belief about how life progresses in general that has not been true for a very long time. So it's this, oh, we turn 18, we go to college, we get married, we do this, we like, right? And so that was when we were living what is generally considered a Saturnian life cycle. But now we're in a Uranian life cycle. And so we're dealing with people who live significantly longer. So while you don't necessarily have those 3 specific phases, we do sort of have the beginning, the middle, and the rest, right? So think of life kind of as this bell curve. It's stretched out much differently than what we have been living for quite some time. So middle age, if we consider that a Uranian life cycle on average is 84 years, that makes the middle 42. And so what does that really mean for the trajectory, for the development of us, for us really finding our purpose, for us really finding our footing? All of that timeline has become stretched out in a way that's really different than how we have been living. So for us to believe that we're really getting started at life anytime between or before 35 to 45, I mean, it's really when we're getting started. And so, especially here in the US, we're in this whole, I have to be an adult and I have to move out and I have to support myself and I have to do this and I have to do that. And there's all of these, again, stories, and how are they serving us? And are they right for us anymore? When the fact of the matter is, our life cycle has really, really significantly changed. And we haven't adjusted our expectations of how that plays out. So I hope that answers your question. Off the Roof is specific to 6 lines, but not just a 6-2. Thank you. Okay, you feel it. Okay, perfect. I am so glad. So then ask ourselves, right? You're coming into your own at 38. You're really feeling connected to your body, to your purpose, to your process. You're perfectly timed. You're at the beginning. That's what I'll tell you. You're at the beginning. And I feel like, this is just my feeling, that almost everyone can sort of take some notes from the 6-line process. And so I look at, this is the best way to describe it. 0 to 30-ish, right? Because we're dealing with processes that don't have a definitive date necessarily. They're energetic progress. So from 0 to 30, we're still in utero. We're still developing and growing and figuring ourselves out. At 30, the umbilical cord is cut. And then from 30 to 50, we're growing up. And at 50, we're actually an adult who's ready to live and embrace life. So I hope that kind of gives you a better feel for kind of how that trajectory works in a way that serves us much better than the programming and the story we've been running, since the turn of the century. Since the industrial age started, that doesn't really do anything for us. So, Sophia, that would have been your Saturn return, right? So your Saturn return, you picked up and moved to Japan. Now you're coming off the roof, and there's these are really pivotal points, and they play out a different way for the 6 line, right? But I'm really glad Tanya asked the question, because it's another thing to deconstruct. Why we believe that we have to have a whole bunch of shit figured out by the time we're 21 or 22. Because the fact of the matter is, that's no longer our life path and trajectory. It just isn't. And it hasn't been for a long time, but we've continued to buy into that story. And it doesn't serve us. Who is it serving? Because it's certainly not serving us. Yeah, so I will invite you, if you are interested. I am clearly not doing enough there, but I do have a group that's just for 6-2s. If you would like for me to send you a link for that. And I would love to get you some more information about what it means to go through that 6-2 process. For the sake of the conversations that I'm going to be having this week, there is sort of a process that I put out to go through. And so like the first conversation is just deconstructing by type. How are we meeting life? How are we engaging in life? And what patterns and habits have we developed that don't serve us because we're still buying into stories about how we should or shouldn't behave, engage in life, go after life, do things, and they don't honor the truth of who we energetically are. The next conversation that I plan on having this week will be about profiles, and profiles being the costume that we wear. So whether you're a 1-3 or a 5-1 or a 6-2, Ngazi, I got you. Whether you're any of those, right? And what does that mean for how your energy is here to serve in your role in this physical existence? And are you or are you not honoring that? And are you or are you not recognizing that? Because, like, as an example, Tanya is a 5-1. And so I know a lot of 5-1s. There's lots of them in my life. 2 of my children are 5-1s. And one of the things that I have worked really hard to do with them, because 5-1s really feel a lot of projection. And that really, it means people don't necessarily see them. They're showing people what they need to see about themselves, right? And it can be very uncomfortable because people can put you on a pedestal, or they can vilify you, or whatever other thing. Kieran, I love you. Or whatever other thing that there is, right? And then 5-1s need to recognize that people are doing that and find processes so they don't take it personally. And so I've had this conversation quite a bit lately because I'm dealing with, my beautiful 17-year-old who is a 5-1, and helping her work through projections and what does that mean for her, and does she have to accept them or believe them or deal with them, or how to manage through that. But for her, so understanding my energy is really important in this. And so I have the channel 59-6, and without getting into a bunch of detail, 59-6 is a very specific kind of energy, and I have it in triplicate, and it is some of it, and it is called the Aura Buster. And so I get the benefit of kind of being able to cut through aura and see people for the truth of who they are, which has helped my interactions with my own daughter tremendously, because while on occasion, because I'm the mom, I do project, we all do in some ways, I have found it easier for me to separate myself from who she is as an individual, the choices that she's making, seeing her for the truth of who she is and not who I expect her to be. But that is just a theme that plays out for 5-1s. And so the profiles are something that I will be getting into in the next conversation. Then the conversation after that will be about open centers. And open centers are places for our greatest wisdom, right? Because it is where we are open to experiencing the bountiful variety of expression of energy. Where we're defined, we have basically one way we experience that energy. And where we're undefined, open, white, whatever you want to call it, there are some subtle differences, and now is not the time to get into all of that. We all have the whole chart, but those open places are where we take in the energy of the people around us. We take in energy from the planet's transits. We take in energy and we amplify. It's where we learn about the beauty of the diversity of the world around us energetically, right? So that's just the piece that I really want, to be clear. Then the next conversation we're going to have is going to pertain to conditioning around food, which I think is going to be fun. Conditioning around your diet, why we do those things, why we don't do those things, what it means for us, how we can better serve our bodies. And then the other piece to that is my opinion, strictly my opinion, but the next revolution is the food revolution. Corporate food, industrialized food is not serving us at all. It really isn't. And so what does that mean for us? As we lean into honoring our bodies and what they need for their best functioning, right? Then how do we begin to address that? I love Michael Pollan, who wrote In Defense of Food and An Omnivore's Dilemma. And really the basis of everything he's done is, wisely says the gatherer. Thank you, Nita. What he really has done is he was an investigative journalist, and he came away from his journalistic investigation saying, number one, these people don't know anything about food and nutrition, and they're making it up as they go. They really don't know how it works. Number two, after traveling around the world and seeing how people eat and where it's good and where it's not, where it's working and where it's not, eat whole real food, mostly vegetables, and not as much. I mean, see, now Anita wants to tease me about butt nuggets because part of me making my evolution into this is understanding my primary health system, right? So the food conditioning piece that we will talk about in a few days is something for me that is very significant in what I'm taking in. And my particular type, and there are 12 different types you can fall into, has to do with eating locally grown, in-season food, I know where it's sourced kind of thing, right? Oh, yeah, Karen with the butt nuggets. I'm sorry, because she teased me about it the other day. And so I have actually done the work regarding, because the city I'm in specifically allows us to keep hens. I can have 3 hens, and I have a really good girlfriend. Actually, she used to be an employee of mine, but we became friends, and she is a phenomenal human being. And she moved from the city to the country when she got married like 25 years ago or so. And she is helping me learn how to, I said, be a chicken mama. Will you help me be a chicken mama? And so I'm going to begin my adventure this year. Because, you know, I'm figuring I can manage 3. And picking the right ones in the right home and learning how to care for them and all of that. And so Kieran and I were on a different post, and I made the comment about how much they were talking about eggs and the age of eggs when you buy them at the grocery store. Kieran and Anita, that is correct. Commiserate together and discuss. I happen to know that you do share the same PHS digestive system. So the conversation was about how old those eggs really are when you go to the grocery store. And my comment was, well, I get mine from my farmer friend, so my butt nuggets are fresh. And so that became a whole funny thing, right? I know. So again, that's a conversation for later this week. I know they won't be at the same time. And I can't promise what time they're going to be. I'm kind of going with what feels good. I'm going to say they're typically going to be probably around 5 p.m. Depending on what else I have going on. They're going to be around 5. But if I have time in the day, I could hop on earlier, but they're typically going to be about 5-ish. Well, okay, and so I am in Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so Tanya, where's my book? Okay, hold please. I have to get my book. So, my friend Miss Tina Bina gave me this book so that I can learn, and she's going to teach me some stuff. But there's actually some information in here about how to store and how long you can store, and keeping eggs longer term rather than shorter term. So the fact that they're 3 weeks at the store isn't terrible, because there are ways to store them appropriately. How about that? And this gets into meat chickens and egg chickens, which right now I can just have egg chickens and I'm perfectly okay with that. And I'm going to learn all about, see? So that's a journey I will likely share with you guys. Yes. And it'll be fun. Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. Where are you, Sophia? Because, you know, you never know. If the mood strikes me, I could get up at some crazy hour in the morning and do this. See, and then I've got, and I love them both. So I've got Anita and Kieran in the comments talking about how their PHS is the worst during this whole conversation. Oh, you're still in Japan. So during this whole conversation about the stories that we tell ourselves and how they don't serve us, telling themselves and sharing their story of misery about being the first color in eating, which really makes them hunters, and just, oh, what am I going to do with you two? Okay. No, if this time it could work another day this week, I'll just have to see. I do spend about 30 hours a week at a local alternative high school where I work with teenage people. And so depending on how my day goes there, I can do lives there. I have done lives there. And it just kind of depends on what's going on. And right now they're short a teacher, and so it's been really crazy. But if it gets to be less crazy, then I am happy to go live from there. Okay, so Anita and Kieran, whom I adore. I'm telling you, I love both of them. They are type 1, we'll call it, for their eating. They're hunters. And so, and especially when they're consecutive. Or are you alternating? Are you consecutive or alternate? Anyway, here's the thing. Based on their particular scenario around food, they are only supposed to be eating one thing at a time until it's gone, and then going to the next thing, and then going to the next thing, right? Okay, so Anita's alternating. It's a very limited diet. So when you think of hunters, think of it this way. The hunter would go out and, you know, they'd kill whatever, a buffalo, they'd skin it, they'd make the buffalo jerky, and then they'd eat that until it was gone. And then they'd go out and they'd do the next thing, and then they'd eat that until it was gone. It's very, very low variety. Food's not mixed, so it's a digestive system that doesn't tolerate mixed foods very well. So that means pasta. Okay, so John, my people can hear your stuff, honey. So, people who have that eating style sometimes fall into the category of people who don't like their food to touch, but not necessarily. But yes, it's and so getting back, so let's get into that being a thing, right? So anyway, they're supposed to eat one thing at a time, only that one thing. They can't mix foods, so they have to eat all of the peas. Then they eat all of the potatoes. Then they eat all of the meat. And it's, if you want to be in the strictest sense of the word, then it's unseasoned, right? And literally it's if you want some salt, sprinkle some salt on your tongue, put the salt on your tongue separately from the meat, kind of thing. So what we're doing, Anita, is working our way into reducing the mixing and ingredients in the food and getting ourselves back to a better place. But that's only if you fall into that category. So then I fall into, no jinx on you. So I fall into the second category, which is the gatherer. So it's more about me being very discerning about what I eat and eating locally grown, in season produce. It can be mixed. But using more herbs and spices for seasoning, but fresh versus others. But it's learning. But it's also knowing to pay attention to how your body reacts to different things, right? And so if you're doing things out of order, I know when I'm eating stuff I'm not supposed to eat because I get heartburn terribly. And the more I eat correctly, then when I go back and do something bad, it's even worse these days. So, okay. So, we're not going to keep talking about PHS right now. We're not going to keep talking about that. Although, it's going to be a really good conversation when I get to that. So, that it's actually, I just put an offer out. And I've changed it a little bit. I've added to it. I can tell you a little bit about that if that's what you want to learn about, because I'm not talking about it until 4 days from now. So PHS is posted everywhere, I think, and it is $111. And so I'm going to have a talk with Kieran because I've added a new element to PHS. So let's have a conversation so that I can get you this other information, because what I have been able to dive into and learn a little bit more about PHS is when you get into the variables and you learn about PHS and your body orientation, your mind orientation, the food you're supposed to take in, how your surroundings are supposed to be, your particular style and approach to manifesting is also informed by your PHS. Your girl keeps studying. So I will get you some info because we just had our call. So I'll give you some info. So it's not, and so Ngazi, and I want this to be clear because I'll get into it. It's not just, oh, it's a diet. So if you see the post, I don't know if I can find it or not, because I want you to sort of understand what I'm trying to say about it, right? Let me see if I can find it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Starting with understanding your aura, so understanding being a generator and how a generator interacts in life, understanding being a 6-2. Yeah, it's a process. It's a process. So when I talk about PHS, it is digestion, environment, perspective, and awareness. So how are you designed to eat? Not necessarily what you're supposed to eat. What environment is going to nourish you the most? And environment really starts to play a role after 30. Remember, we're not grown until later. Perspective. And so it's about the view of life and the way you establish your unique awareness of things going. Your awareness is not anyone else's awareness. How you see life is not the same as anyone else. And then, so correct the way you eat, correct your body. And so this is, you take in more than food, you take in life. So it's informing all of that. It is helping you understand how your environment impacts you meeting your purpose in life, helping you establish your place in the world, because after 30 is when you really establish your place, and knowing how to do that in a way that really feeds and nurtures you is going to give you a more powerful impact in your role that you are here to play. And then you're setting in motion your story. And then you find out whether you're strategic or receptive. And then part of that in those variables also tells how you manifest, right? So are you specific or non-specific? What does that mean and how does that play out? And so I'm going to go back and look at Kieran's, because I literally just spoke to her about her PHS, and this is something I was digging into and learning, and I've got it, and so now she needs to know this too, right? So there's that. So I've actually decided, and I was doing PHS readings, and they are kind of next level, right? And I know what other people are out there charging for those. And I had sort of priced myself at a place where I felt was appropriate. It wasn't at the super high end. It wasn't at the super low end. It was a place I felt comfortable. And I ran a special over the holiday, and I have adjusted my pricing for PHS readings. And so now, for right now, instead of them being $333, they are $111. They include all of that information, plus your manifesting perspective. And that's all in. And I know people are out there doing it for, digestion and environment is $150. Perspective and awareness is $150. Like I want to make this information as easily available as I can, and also honor the energy and work that goes into it. So the links are out there. I know it's on my personal page because I can see it right now. I know it should be in this group, and it should be on my business page. And it's just the one that has my acuity scheduling photo. And it's titled Deconstruction of the Stories We Create About Ourselves and the World Takes Time. So there's that. And in Ghazi, we have already had like an in-depth conversation and coaching session about your design. And so you've already kind of started down that road. So PHS would definitely be a place that you would be okay, right? It's not necessarily something I recommend for somebody who just learned about human design. Give yourself a little bit to sort of feel through what that means, and get that in order, and then go to the next thing, and then go to the next thing, and then go to the next thing. And there's also a way to work with me that I'm making available. And I will not be dropping the link for that at all until the end of the week. And I'm trying to find the info. So you can either do that, or if you are really interested in walking through the deconstruction, having someone guide you, and let me tell you, it's a thing. It really is. But going through this process, I am offering a 6-week, and it's 6 weeks for, let me find it. Did I not put it there? Of course I didn't put it there, because why would I? Go here. Okay, so it's a different package than anything I've ever offered. It's not a super long term. It is 6 weeks. 6 weeks going through your type, your authority, your profile, in depth. Your open center, working through deconditioning by center, for you personally, helping you understand how those show up for you and getting you into the process of working out through those. Your incarnation cross, which is purpose through human design, and you can take a very deep dive to get very personal with that. And your PHS, which will include your manifesting style. And so in this offer, here's what it is. It's going to be 6 weeks, $555. I'm reading it because I typed it up yesterday. A weekly call with a recording that you get to keep. There's worksheets and guide materials as we dive through the layers of your design, so that you have notes and understanding, and you can keep those to go through. There will probably be some level of meditation and mantras for you to use, some tapping exercises for you as you work through kind of deconditioning. And there will be me available to contact, to support as things present themselves, as you are working through things and things may feel confusing or just uncomfortable and you need to reach out. All of that is going to be 6 weeks, $555. And I will offer a payment plan for that. Now, so what I want you to understand in this is that I have priced this in a way that is, in my opinion, very competitive, but very much a place where I'm comfortable doing this, because I need this work to get out there. I need to impact more women more quickly to start this deconditioning and get themselves really aligned energetically, especially going, it will be by email and by Telegram. It could be Voxer if you wanted Voxer. And with that, so that you know, like my PHS reading was $333. My purpose reading was $222. My basic human design consultation, $397. So that's already almost $1,000. The open center work is not something that I have previously done as a separate service. It's something that's always been done with clients. So that's being bundled into this also. And it's helping you understand how you've been conditioned based on where you're open, where you're taking in things, where you're impacted by people outside of you in an energetic way. So the whole kit and caboodle, the whole package, 6 weeks, it's an intensive and deep dive, really getting you aligned and supporting you in stepping forward in this. And at a price point that I really feel good about, being very, very comfortable to impact more people in a shorter amount of time. So if it is something that feels in alignment for you, you can reach out to me. I can send you a little more information about it, what I've written up, because that's the thing I'm talking about. That's Sophia, please DM me. Absolutely. And for those of you who have worked with me, and there are a few of you on here, you guys know I'm a habitual overgiver. In that, If our call is supposed to be, 45 minutes or an hour, I typically, unless there is something else coming right after it, if it is something I feel like you need to know, I'm taking all of the time I need. I'm going over that amount of time. I'm giving you the information that's relevant and important. I am really, really, invested in making this impact this year for a number of reasons. We just entered into, a new decade, and in addition to that, through the lens of human design. So let me just kind of back this up, and then I'll end this particular live. Through the lens of human design, you have an incarnation cross that's on your graph, and that's about your purpose in life. In human design, there are also global incarnation crosses. So every approximately 400 years, there's a background energy in the universe, right? And we have been under what has been called the cross of planning for a very long time. And we are actually in the last 7 years, as of now, of the cross of planning. And in the year 2027, we enter into the energetic universal background of the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Okay? And you're like, yeah, whatever. Well, we know, we're hearing all about all of these shifts in energy and these up levels and these ascensions, and human design in its perspective also supports that's what's really going on. So what does that mean? As we watch the struggle of governments around the world and the struggle of all of these things, none of this comes as a surprise. There's really this huge energetic shift going on, and it's not just global, it's universal. And the belief in human design, which is based primarily in science, so it's quantum physics, it is the I Ching, the Kabbalah, astrology, the Brahman chakra system, it's all of that. But let's talk about the quantum, the physics, the genetic piece of that. Every 7 years, you have recycled your entire body. So what am I saying? It takes 7 years to regenerate every cell in your body. So your whole body's going through a constant regenerative process. So human design has long looked at this 7 years of deconditioning, this 7 years of processing to really get you to where you are literally cell by cell, no longer the person you were when you started your process, right? We are in the last 7 years of this particular incarnation cross, and then we enter into a different kind of energy universally. And so now we're in this 7 years to get your body ready to decondition, to be living more fully, completely, honoring the truth of who you are, and giving yourself the time to grow and learn and develop that before the universal energy really, really shifts. So anyway, that's what I'm here to do. If you have questions, I mean it, reach out to me. My DMs are open. I love to answer questions. I start talking about this and get carried away. I do. I love it. It has completely changed my world. For those of you, who know me personally, and those of you that I talk to all of the time, I am not the same person. My life does not look anything like it used to. I am so much more fulfilled, so much more in purpose and on path. And human design does talk about being resilient and having sufficiency, and that we are all here to be provided for. And so, again, I'm in this place where I want to start sharing with you what that looks like in challenging the stories about what we believe to be true and why we believe it, and give you another way to look at those things and deconstruct them. So I hope you've enjoyed this session, which I tried to stay focused on type. Then the next session of deconstruction is going to talk about profile. And so you think of your profile as the costume that you wear in life. And we're going to talk about that and how that plays out and what those mean, and how you can more fully embrace what that is for you. So I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I look forward to the rest of them the rest of the week. I really thank you, love you, and appreciate you for spending time with me today. And I will talk to you guys soon.